Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, we're going to talk about the evolution of sports and the importance of sports ethics. Topic of the entire conference today is empowering lives through physical activity. We're talking about healthy, fair, and clean sports. The word sports implies physical activity and motion beyond the usual demands of life. It tests an individual's mobilities, creativity in motion, like dancing, endurance, strength, balance, and most of all, enjoyment of body motion. From infancy to toddlers to adults, how we enjoy the ability to move independently and how we subsequently develop control and perfection. Here we are with an urge to move. Then we have effort. Then we have practice. Then we have success. Then we have confidence. Then we have exploration and fun and play. Then we have rhythm. Then we have help. Then we have success and sharing of success. Then we have the touch and the feel. Then we have trust. Then we have team efforts. Then we have balance. And then we have exploring and pushing the limits. And finally, we have perfection. We all go through this to some degree or not, whether we consider ourselves athletes or not. So, sports should not be considered a source of stress or a form of punishment. At the FIFA 2020 Soccer World Cup in Qatar recently, I watched many games on TV and was impressed at the number of yellow and red cards that were given to the players. There were very few. This is a reflection of better or fairer play on the field. Off the field, however, there are issues that influence the results of sporting events, big or small. The biggest sports events hits the news headlines with great influence on the general public. And overall, all over the world, all TV stations, they broadcast sports channels. National and international sports events are covered in great detail. Even school-level competitions are now covered with great interest. Now, over the last month, events such as the misbehavior of a Sri Lankan cricketer in Australia and the death of legendary football player Pele in Brazil, and the $350 million bid for a footballer in the UK hit the world's and local headlines. In the not too distant past, Jesse Owens of the United States in 1936, Ranatunga Karunananda from Sri Lanka, Koichi Tsuburaya from Japan, Belika Abebe from Ethiopia, demonstrated the effects and influence over personal problems related to sports and the human psyche. The last three names were personal contacts of mine, as we were all participants in the Olympic Games in 1964 in Tokyo. The experiences of Susantika Jayasinghe before, during, And after the 2004 Sydney Olympics is a sad story closer to home. During a press conference for the women's 200-meter medalists at the 2004 Olympics, when asked the question whether her country would be proud of her, Susantika said in a very quiet voice, "I can't explain. You wouldn't understand. They gave me trouble. I gave them bronze medal. It'll make them sad. It was trouble with me, doping and sexual harassment." It reflects how much sports can influence people. Most of what we call sports today evolved from activities that helped the human hunter-gatherer primitive tribes to survive. And this is reflected in the motto of the modern Olympic Games: faster, higher, stronger. Over millennia, an element of competition crept in, and today an element of reward for better performance has established itself in terms of honor and fame, and more recently in terms of money, and lots of it. In the original Olympic Games, winners received only a crown or a garland of laurel leaves, nothing more. Competitors who seem to perform for the sake of money are called professional athletes. Until about 1968, were not allowed in the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games was once a sacred arena for the expression of unaided and unattached rewards for human physical endurance and effort, either solo or in teams. The instinctive interest and popularity of sports was aided by the advent of photography, film, cinema, video, and television, the latter now being available almost everywhere in the world, right in your own pocket, in your living room, and even in public places. The win at all costs attitude has now created unfair practices to get to the top. This harmful influence can trickle down to the younger age groups and make the sports arena uncomfortable, unhealthy, unfair, and dirty. This trend is silently promoted by adults and not the enthusiastic, young, innocent, naive, early teenagers, the age at which the taste of competition begins. At whatever level of competition, we all agree that in sports, it must always be fair play. A fight between a heavyweight boxer and featherweight boxer is no fight at all. We must not expect David and Goliath to be an everyday event. In real life, though, there are cheaters, and they are found at all levels, from school level to international level, including the Olympic Games. And we have regularly read of these cheaters that bring shame not only to themselves, but to their families, schools, clubs, country, their sport, and beyond. Concerned and honest people have always are on the lookout for such cheaters. And at higher levels of competition, the punishments for cheating are serious, including banned from competition, confiscation of prizes and rewards, the loss of commercial sponsorships. But despite this, cheating continues and in cleverer ways. Excelling or winning at higher levels of competition results in athletes being role models for the younger generation. They influence the building of value systems, not only within their sports, but for society in general. This is a very powerful force and positive force. However, cheaters end up having the same powerful influence, but in a very negative way. It is specifically for this reason that all over the world, sports are introduced early into schools with the expectation that participation in sports will build character. No one questions the validity of this assumption and practice. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. What then is sports? How does it affect the molding of character? The innate drive within the living body to control and enjoy movement. Think even of infants and toddlers and their happy struggle to move. Number two, to share the enjoyment of motion and touch another human being, snuggling, dancing, and team sports. Number three, the building of groups, clubs, teams of people who enjoy similar activity. To compete in the activities of motion, which we call sports, with fellow human beings of similar age and abilities, implying fair play. 5, to learn the taste of defeat as well as victory, both equally important to experience the resiliency and determination. To experience all of the above at all ages, even senior citizens, now with ever-lengthening life expectancy. In modern times, appreciating and expecting the physical and athletic abilities of even the disabled or lesser abled, which demonstrates the resiliency of the human body and spirit. We now call it the Paralympics. The promotion of social harmony among family, friends, and supporters of participants, and even promotion of social harmony between nations. The human race is endowed with shortcomings like dishonesty, cheating, lying, stealing, fraud, etc. And all of us are guilty to some extent to these shortcomings. However, humans also have to do better, and we are learning from our mistakes. That is being human. And this is a capacity we all have. Systematically planned cheating, either at an individual, team, or national level, is considered a serious crime and should be considered an irreversible disgrace over and above other punishments. No one disagrees with this when it is exposed that unfair play was involved. Cheating in sports can be at an individual level, team level, provincial and national level, international level, at a political and even business level. Because of money and power, cheating at the higher levels of organization, well above the team level, is hard to detect and punish. What are the main areas where cheating is carried out? 1, unfairly performing outside specifications like your age, weight, gender, and even nationality. Number 2, the illicit or secretive use of performance-enhancing drugs, substances, and mechanical devices, usually done with accomplices. 3, being chosen into a team because of favoritism and not because of merit or ability. Number 4, being unfairly or prejudicially judged by the umpires and judges on one's performance. Number 5, being psychologically pressurized into participation against one's wishes. Number 6, obstructing, disabling, interfering, or sabotaging your fellow competitors' performance, either directly or via other planned means. Factors 1 and 2 can be objectively evaluated. The rest are subjective in application and implementation and will always lead to controversy. Having been in competitive sports at an international level, I have seen and heard more than enough of these incidents over the last 65 years. Presently, I have direct involvement in investigating ethics in sports, being on a Sri Lankan National Olympic Subcommittee for investigating sexual harassment. So what then is ethics? It is the branch of and knowledge that studies the moral principles. What then is the difference between ethics and morals? Ethics and morals relate to the right and wrong, or the good and bad of conduct or behavior. While the words ethics and morals are sometimes used interchangeably, they are different. Ethics refers to rules provided by an external source, example, codes of conduct and behavior in the workplace, in schools, teams, and even in religious teachings. Morals refer to an individual's own interpretation and implementation of these principles as right or wrong, or good or bad. It is where their conscience. Vocabulary alone from any language cannot describe these concepts and their boundaries in a legally exacting and watertight extent, such that they cannot be cleverly misinterpreted or abused intentionally or otherwise. Cheaters will always find a way of interpreting their behavior to their advantage, while non-cheaters, who are the majority, will have to tolerate or forgive the cheaters, or else ban their participation. Tolerating or forgiving cheaters leads to lowering of ethical boundaries and standards, and eventually changes the original definition of sports. What about off-field influences? Sports officials, coaches, administrators, selection committees, and political influencers all affect the clean image of sports. So do dominating parents of younger players, especially at school level. When exposed, they reveal the dirty side of our social values and behavior. A good local example is what is happening in the game of cricket in Sri Lanka. We have produced world-class cricketers, but none of them sit on our board of cricket control. Why? The higher values and morals of our great cricketers of the past that grew from the game on the field, on-field behavior and experiences, they cannot mix or coexist with the ethics and behavior of the present board of cricket control, which is off-field behavior. As a result, our country's potential in the sport cannot progress. Some of these controllers have never even played the game with any distinction in their youth. The passion of competition in some countries and in some sports is so intense that a defeat results in tragic results like mayhem on the field, death threats, and even murders of players, their families, referees, umpires, team managers, and administrators. These are not isolated events. Such emotionally charged incidents have begun to discourage talented competitors from participation. At this level, the word sports and its expected salubrious and wholesome influence on society is totally and shamefully lost. These incidents are not incited by the players of the game, but by adult spectators, cheerleaders, and organized local gangs, both political and business, exploiting disorder after the loss of a game. What about the irresponsible and shameful behavior of individual athletes of repute off the field? Even though it may be argued that it is an individual's misconduct, it does tarnish the image of the game and also the rest of the team members. We do have a Sri Lankan in such a situation at the moment, with the Ministry of Sports trying to do damage control. Match fixing is another area where the large amounts of money are involved, and active involvement of players is a precondition for such rackets. Many famous players have been implicated in many sports and have had severe penalties imposed. Indirectly, the individual, his family, his school, his team, his coaches, the managers, administrators, the ministry itself, and the country and the image of the game all suffer the consequences. The role model influence on the young generation of players is silently and irreversibly damaging. Internationally, we have had some instances when some countries have decided to boycott the Olympic Games because of the poor ethics of the host country. This is devastating to the young competitors who trained for the events. We also have had instances where medals have been returned when cheating has been proven. Our own Susantika had her bronze medal elevated to silver because of the cheating of one of the winners. Sports has power, both positive and negative, and is not limited to performance on the field alone. This power is not in the hands of the players alone. In fact, most of the power is in the hands of adults who are not significant players themselves. We, as a result, as spectator adults, should be aware of this and act in a positive way when it is within our power to do so, especially when we can influence our youth. Thank you for listening.